Alright, haven't done a video on this guy in a while, or ever, I think. It's time to get this thing going. Gotta fix my past mistakes. I don't like the way this looks, and it doesn't work, so kind of a win-win, or lose-lose, however you want to put it. So I'm gonna cut all this off, and I gotta do some work to the rear fork. I want to bring the rear tire in a little bit, and I need to put a flange bearing on here on both sides, and I'm not going to reuse this bolt. I'm actually going to use a machine rod that goes through both flange bearings, and that should help with the articulation problem that I'm having. As you can see right now, it's just metal on metal, which, you know, from an engineer standpoint, is probably not the best way to do it. So as you can see, the rear tire sticks out way too far, and it actually brings the back of the bike up a little bit. But I also need to take into consideration the space I have between here and here. This is going away, so that won't be a problem. As you figure out where to get the wheel first, and then once I get that in place, I can go ahead and take the fork off and do some work to the mounting position. And all this is staying. I did this a while back. I'm gonna have to go over some of my welds a little bit. But as far as the front goes, I actually have these two forks backwards. So I'm gonna flip them back where they're supposed to be, because actually the brake drum is supposed to be on the right side. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that fixed. And this thing should be a normal bike again. But I think these forks aren't all the way in, or at least doesn't look like it. If you look in that hole, I'm not really sure. I'll have to take a look at that too. But yeah, it doesn't run either. Lots of work to do this thing, so let's go ahead and get started. Get all the cobwebs off. But yeah, it should be a fun little project. All right, finally making some progress. Got everything taken out. Everything's ready to be cut off, all this crap. And I have noticed something else. This is crooked. As you can see, this side's a little more forward. And I'm not gonna let that slide. It probably won't really affect anything, but for cosmetic purposes, I'm gonna cut it off and start fresh. I don't like this weld anyway. Plus, I kind of wanna change this up a little bit. I'm gonna keep this, but I kind of want to bring it down just so it's more flush with the frame maybe. And all this under here, I want all this to come out. So if I just cut all this straight, bring this down a little bit, that should help. And it'll make it look much nicer, I think. I don't think I've cut this tubing. Oh, now that I look at it, I think I did. Worst case, I'll just make a whole new piece. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead, get this cut off, and hate to say it, I might have to start from scratch, but I'm just gonna try and cut it straight as I can, and then just go ahead and start drawing me up a new piece. So all right, let's go ahead and get to it. All right, this is where we're at. Got a little carried away, but got the piece on, took the tank off just to be on the safe side. But piece is looking good. Over here got the shocks. I need to figure out some sort of mounting mechanism, and I was digging through my garage and I actually found these. These came off my Jeep, and the sleeve is the perfect size for this shock eyelet. So I'm just gonna probably put it on there about so. Maybe cut these bolt tabs off. I want to find a way to use them, but honestly, I really have no reason to. So, but I could leave them because I might need them for something. Who knows? But I'm gonna get those welded on, and then I'm gonna taper this downward, kind of like how it was before. But should be done right this time though. The weld seems decent. Once I clean it up, it'll look really nice. Then under here, I might run a piece of angle iron down and then up, give it some extra support, and then we should be finished as far as the back goes. Well, I still gotta do the fork. I don't think I'm gonna keep that fork. Needs way too much work. I might take some parts off of it, like the tabs. Those I might take. I cut this one off already. Gotta straighten it back out. But I might save that guy. But I think I saw a guy on YouTube. What he did was he took a 110 solid front fork and made a rear fork out of it, which is probably what I'm gonna end up doing. It's gonna look more OEM, even though this isn't an OEM bike, but I think it's gonna look a lot nicer, more streamlined, and it'll be easier to get it working. It's New Year's Eve, it's getting dark, so fairly early. So I'm gonna have to call it a night, and then we'll come out here tomorrow and resume. Here it is next day. Just show you guys what I've came up with so far. So I got the flange bearing on both sides. It looks relatively straight, I hope. But measured as best I could. That is one thing you gotta watch out for if you're gonna do something like this. There's really nothing to measure off of. So I just kind of took a speed square and lined everything up as best I could. I'm not sure how perfect this frame is, but I got another hole drill. This is gonna be for the jack shaft for the chain. So for this side, the bearing is actually a little too wide. So when I put the sprocket on there, it's not gonna line up perfectly with the sprocket on the engine. So this, I'm gonna have to mount on the inside of the frame. And to do that, I'm probably gonna have to cut an access hole right about yay big. The seat's gonna cover, so it's not gonna matter. And I'm gonna have to reinforce it with some metal flat stock, which kind of works out because I want to put a battery on this thing anyway. I don't have a battery yet, but I can at least get the spot opened up for it. And I can just mount this on the inside. And in this case, it'll actually be serviceable. So the other side is gonna be mounted on the outside, and this side is gonna be mounted on the inside. And I already have my jack shaft rod. As you can see, it's keyed, whereas that one isn't. This is where the fork is gonna ride on, so it should work out really good. I ran a different size for the fork. This is a 3/4 inch, and this is exactly a 1 inch. I want this as beefy as possible because there's gonna be a lot of torsion on this. It's gonna go all the way through the frame like so. Now I did drill a pretty big hole, as you can see, just to give myself a little bit of clearance. Now I don't think my holes are perfectly lined up, which is why I drilled a bigger hole. Same thing with under here. I might have to drill the hole a little bigger because got a little bit of clearance issues. So I'm probably just gonna take these off and drill a hole bigger. And these bolts are actually the wrong size. Those are M10, and M12 actually fits in these holes perfectly. Now, if you want a set of these bearings, I'll leave a link in the description below. I just bought these off of Amazon. They're cheap. It's a Florida-based company that makes these things, and also they're swivel bearings. So if you want to mount it to a crooked surface and you want this straight, you can swivel it, which I thought was kind of neat. But I don't really need that purpose. So I'm just gonna keep them straight and just figure out where to mount it. Now, this is pretty much straight, and I'm trying to get this as straight as possible. It has to be perfect because you're gonna have a chain riding on this, and if it's not straight, then the chain could bind up and it could wear prematurely. So I gotta make sure this is done right. But over here, I got the cross member for the shocks. Welded these on. It looks much better than it did originally, I think. My welds aren't the best, but nothing a little paint can't handle. Add some reinforcement under here. So yeah, I don't think this thing's going anywhere. I think this bead is a lot better than what it was before. And I just gotta find some flat stock to cover these holes up. I just figured that angle gave it a nice little design to it. I was gonna do a 45, but it was a little too steep, so I decided to go back a little bit. I went back, I think, 2.5 inches, 2 3/4 inches, and then I just drew a line diagonally. That's how I do my angles. But overall, it's looking really good. Looks good. Shocks, you seem to hold together pretty well. I might put some shims in here later on, but we'll see. I gotta get the rear fork for it first. That's about where the tank is gonna sit. I'm not gonna do anything to the front. I've already added a mounting position up front, so I'm just gonna leave that. And back here, I actually had 16mm 3/8 sockets as spacers, and the reason why I did that is because, as you can see here, the tank, if I take these bolts out, so I want the tank to sit on the frame like I had it originally. You can see my cut mark that I notched the frame out so it can clear. But we run into a problem under here. The tank hits the throttle cable, so that's obviously not gonna work. So I'm probably gonna take the inside of the tank and take a slight hammer to it. Not bend it too much, but just enough. As you can see, it's pretty close, but not close enough. So I just figured it will bring this tank down a lot, and I think it'll look a lot better, and it would actually follow the contour of the frame, whereas before it was up like this. But I think that'll look a lot better. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on that a little bit, and I gotta get this finished up. I mean, it's not super important right now, but I like to get it in place at least. So yeah, I'll go ahead and mess around with that, and then I'll get back with you guys later. All right, made some clearance on that side. One more problem. That hits. That's what holds the CDI in place. So I'm gonna probably gonna have to bend that down a little bit. Hopefully I don't have to bend it too much, but just a little bit. I could bend it upwards if I have enough room. I could bend it upwards and CDI could sit up in there. We'll see. I'll mess around with it a little bit. All right, in the garage this time. Done quite a bit of stuff. I've cut this hole out for the battery compartment, also so I can access these flanges inside of here. I need to do a little bit of trimming. Then I'm gonna weld some flat stock around the edge. I gotta watch that hole, make sure I don't cover that up, because as you can see, I need it. It's my tail light wiring. I made these just now. These are end caps. Go on here like so. And then when I'm done welding, I'm just gonna smooth it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out the welder and get these put on. I also got this hinge off of eBay. It's for a Honda CB350. And I believe this is the frame side. It's gonna mount up like that. I already got my holes marked, as you can see. So it's gonna sit something like that, and there is a little bit of adjustment. These are wallowed holes. And I think these are M8. M6 is too small, M10 is too big, and M6 is too small. So I'm thinking they're an M8, but I'm gonna go ahead and do some measurements real quick. Get my dial indicator out and see what size holes those are. And I do have some nut certs that I'm gonna put in here, and that should get the job done. So looking forward to that. First things first, I'm gonna get these welded up, and then we'll move on. I might even get this flat stock welded in, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the seat. All right, back working on the motorcycle. So it's been a couple weeks. Had to wait on some parts. Got me a rear fork. It's actually a front fork. I'm just gonna cut it down and weld it, and then mount it to this. I got the pieces that I'm gonna weld to it. I'm gonna cut this off because I don't need it anymore. I'm probably just gonna cut it down this line here and maybe weld the tabs to that. And I also got a seat bracket that goes with the new seat that I got, and that also has to be cut down because it sticks out too far. That'll probably be one of the last things I'll do. I like to get this thing back on 2 wheels. So first things first, go ahead and get this fork cut down and get the seat bracket on, and hopefully maybe get the wheel on there. All right, let's get to it. All right, got the fork all welded up. Looking really good. I like the transition into the flange. That looks really good, but I need to clean this weld off. But first things first, I gotta let it cool down. This might be as far as I'm gonna get with it for today, but we made a lot of progress. One thing I have noticed, the fork is bent. Looks like it's bent on this side, so I have to, up here is straight, but back here, he must have whacked into something. But that's probably why he took it off and sold it on eBay. But on the bright side, I don't feel as bad for cutting it up. So I do need to fix this side before I get the wheel on. I mean, I'm sure the wheel can still go on, but it won't look right. It'll sit crooked. But made a lot of progress today. Everything's binding up. It's articulating how I want it to. I'm really happy with the results. So yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and resume this tomorrow. Until then. All right, here it is next day. Made some progress. Here's the other side. That's about how the shock's gonna sit. I am worried about that angle a little bit. Obviously that wheel sticks out too far. I need to bring it in a little bit. And the only way to do that at this point, I probably could have brought this in a little bit, but it's all right. I think I'm gonna cut it here, and then I'm gonna chop it, then bring it in, because this fork's bent anyway. This is roughly the area where it's bent on the other side. So I'm basically gonna cut it to the edge here. I might cut it to where the second bolt is, because I don't need those bolts anymore. So I think that's gonna be my best bet. Plus this isn't aired up all the way. I think it's on like 8 PSI. The one on the front is aired up to 15. So I do have to give myself a little bit of wiggle room, maybe like 1.5 inches of clearance. Worst case, I could trim the cross member down a little bit, which is what I'm trying to avoid, because I've repurposed this as the structural part of the entire unit. So I'm gonna try and leave that alone. I'm just gonna notch it here. And the cool thing is, if I notch it on this angle part, as you can see, there's a sleeve that goes here, but it's too wide for some reason, which I thought was kind of strange. But if I cut it, it's gonna go up and it's gonna come in just a little bit, because even with the sleeve on there, there's still a lot of space left over. The sleeve fits inside of there, and there's literally like over 1 inch gap between the fork and the spacer. Yeah, I could crank it down, but I'd rather not do that. So I mean, this is just a parts fork, so I'm just gonna have some fun with it. But yeah, this tire is definitely sticking out way too far, so I'm gonna try and bring it in a little bit. And depends on where it is. Maybe I don't have to cut my seat, but we'll have to see how it looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. It might take me a while. I'm not gonna film every detail, because I'm sure you guys get bored with that after a while. So yeah, I'm just gonna brainstorm some ideas, and when I'm done, I'll show you guys what I came up with. So all right, see you soon. All right, as you can see, we now have 2 separate pieces. So I took quite a bit off. So I actually measured the front tire since it's fully inflated. I mean, it's literally a 2-inch difference in diameter. You can almost tell on camera. So I measured from the center hub to the outside circumference of the tire. It was about 10, 11 inches. And this is fully inflated. So I decided to give myself a foot. So I measured from the center of this hub to here, and it's exactly 12 inches. So that gives me 1 inch of clearance between the tire and the fork, fully inflated. So we should be pretty much ready to go as far as welding is concerned. So for this, it's gonna be very difficult to get this straight. And takes a lot of skill to do this. So what I'm gonna do is take my speed square like this, line it up, and then I'm gonna take that piece, line it up, butt everything together, tack it in place, make sure everything's straight. It's best to do this with the wheel installed, because you'll know that it'll go in perfectly straight, and also you can use the wheel as a reference. It's just about, this is the center line of the frame that I drew out. It's a little off, so I'm gonna have to get that repositioned once I get ready to weld. And also, I think the wheel might be a little offset anyway. I might shave this hub down a little bit just so I can get it to fit how I want it to. But we'll see. But I might just take a little bit off, and that should get us where we want it. You can see how close this one is to the sprocket. On this side, we got plenty of room. I'm trying to use the tire. I mean, it's almost centered. So, I mean, I'll give it a shot, see how it goes. All right, here it is on both wheels. I'm really happy with how that turned out, the stance on it. and I also aired up the rear tires, so they're both at 15. So they're both very cohesive as far as size and diameter. And I'm really liking the way it's looking back here. Might have to smooth this up a little bit, but that's cosmetic stuff I'll worry about later. But it's looking really good. The chain, I'm a little stuck on the chain. I actually have some more parts coming for it. I'm gonna have to run 3 chains actually. Run one down here, and I can't run it from here straight to here, and I'll get to that later. But basically I got a 3rd sprocket coming. It's actually a double sprocket. I'll show it to you guys when it comes in the mail, but it's gonna ride on this shaft. I was gonna cut this off, but glad I left it because I may actually end up using it. I'm sorry, I will end up using it. That'll be the easiest way out rather than redoing all this. So, but it's coming along really good. My next order of business is the seat, and I want to get the fender mounted at least, and also the air duct. This isn't important right now, but this is the stock air box inlet. It was actually on the inside. There's a snorkel that runs up the frame. I'm not going to run a snorkel because I'm actually going to run a battery in this thing eventually. So I'm thinking I'm going to take it, drill, looks like a 2-inch hole maybe, and just stick it in the side of the frame there. You can see where it was originally. So I can't put it there, and I can't put it too high because the intake pipe will hit the tank. So I got to bring it down just a little bit. I'm going to bring it down here. It's all eaten up right here anyway where I've cut some stuff. So I'm just thinking I'll just go ahead and drill that out where it's already chopped, just so it barely clears the chain. And I got to cut this off, of course. So yeah, fun stuff. I'll probably do that last, but first I want to get this seat in place. So I got this seat off of Amazon a few years back. It's a nice seat. I like the way it looks and how it's low profile, but I don't think it's gonna work with what I got going on. And as far as comfort, I'm not really a big fan of it. So I'm gonna use this as a reference, but I think I'm gonna use this other seat. So here's a seat I got off of eBay, and it's way more practical as far as comfort goes. As you can see, it's a little thicker than this one. I like the length of this one better, and this one, it's got a curve to it, which I don't really like. It kind of takes away the look of the bike. Looks kind of dumb. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the pan and cut it down the middle. You can see where it's angled up in the back. I'm gonna bend the back side down. I'm gonna try to make this seat as flat as possible. But I do like the overall thickness of it. I might trim it down a little bit, but at least it lines up with the tank, which I'm happy with how that looks. So as far as material, I might go brown like that one over there, but I'm just gonna keep this for now. And I'm gonna fix the foam and try and make it as level as possible so it looks good. I might even shorten it, but I'm not 100% sure yet, so we'll have to see on that. But I'm just gonna get some rough ideas. I'm gonna go ahead and take this material off, and brackets are already in place. Now I just gotta find a spot to the seat to drill it to. So yeah, so it's gonna be fun. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so here's a seat after I've taken the cover off. As you can see, it's clearly been repaired. The guy just took some house insulation or something, just stuffed inside this thing. So that's why there was no cushion in the center, but no big deal. Up here still looks pretty good, but I'm very curious to see what's going on under here. So I'm gonna, I guess, take all this tape off and see what we got going on. And for those of you concerned about how the seat cover comes off, see these little spikes. So the material just pinches on those spikes. And a lot of times these spikes are pushed in, but sometimes you can get lucky and they're not pushed in. But if they are, just take a screwdriver and pry the spikes out. They're all around the perimeter of the entire seat pan. When I do cut it, I'm gonna cut it along here somewhere and just bring this part down a little bit. But first things first, I gotta take this cushion off, and the cushion usually just comes right off, or sometimes it's glued on. It's a little brittle. Something's telling me I'd be getting a new cushion as well. So, all right. Wish me luck. All right, seat cushion is off. Not as bad as I thought. I could probably salvage some of it. That's the top side. But someone's definitely been in here. But as you can see all these little tiny shells. I think maybe a mouse got in here and just ate this shit up. This seat's like pushing 50 years old. I guarantee you it's probably the original one. I mean, foam's in good shape and not on the sides. I might be getting a new cushion, or I'll just get some camping mat at Walmart or something. But here's what we have to work with. Pan's in really good shape. It's not rusted out or anything, which makes me happy. So I'm gonna go ahead and start modifying some stuff. And back here's my main focus. I want to make it look less like a banana and more like an actual seat, more like a cafe racer style. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, seat pan has been flattened. Put this cushion back on. So that's kind of what we're working with. Not bad. I still feel like it's a little long in the back. I feel like it should come in a little bit. And not to mention, I am going to have this on a hinge. It's going to swing down. It's going to hit the tire. So I have to shorten it just enough to where I can swing it back all the way. Plus, I don't think I need this big of a cushion. But yeah, it's a little overpowering. Also, I'm not going to use this. I think this is kind of what I'm going at as far as lengthwise. So let's cut some off the back. I might even channel it, like cut some right here, then move this piece in. Because at least here I still have the back edge. I can still utilize that. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Might look a lot better. Worst case, I can put it back the way it was. All right, seat has been cut down. Now 2 pieces. Went ahead and notched the center section out. I figured that was the easiest way to do it, considering it kind of rainbows outward towards the middle. So if I cut it in the middle, as you can see, it lines up perfectly on both sides. All right, not quite done. Got everything mocked up. Got the seat all welded in place, welded both sides. I shaved down the contour a little bit, just so it's a little more round, a little nice looking, rather than being a little more jagged over here. So I haven't done this side yet. You can see pretty significant difference. Looks pretty damn good to me. So I gotta do this side real quick, and then I can get it bolted to the hinge. So that's about where it's gonna sit. And as you can see, the hinge doesn't even reach. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna notch the seat pan out to where it clears this shock tower. And it's also gonna bring the seat down a little bit, which will make it a little more flat. As you can see right now, there, that's at rest. And up here, so we still got a little ways to go. The only problem, if I cut this, it's gonna weaken this area a little bit, which is fine. I got some flat stock I can weld to it to strengthen this pan. But yeah, it's coming along really good. So far, I'm happy with the way it's turning out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep working at it, and I'll show you guys when I'm done. Alrighty, guys. Seat is all mocked up, sanded down for the most part. I don't really worry about this as much, but still really good. I still gotta sand this down, but I got, it's gonna sit right about there. Yeah. So got it mocked up in place, cut both sides out, notched them out to go over the shock tower. As you can see, the seat It sits nice and flat now, and it's level with the tank, which makes me happy. I might still have to run some spacers. I mean, it's gonna be awfully close, but we'll see. But I'm gonna get the holes drilled for the bracket, install some nut certs, and see how the seat pan opens and closes. But it's looking really good so far. I'm happy with the way it's turning out. I've bent this in a little bit. Might have to make some adjustments on that. Make sure this is perfectly square before I drill it. But yeah, it's looking really good. So I can't wait to get it all finished up. It's gonna be hard to mark my holes, but I'll figure it out. So yeah, wish me luck. Okay, so we're making a lot of progress here. You see I got the seat notched out. Nice and flat. Looks very streamlined. Looks very good. Also got it bolted in to the bracket. And the only problem is, as I flip up, it hits. So I was hoping I can keep it like this, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to. It's a neat design, I think, but as far as functionality goes, it's not gonna work. So I'm gonna have to do what I did over here and go wider with the arc. I was gonna add some flat stock, but it doesn't seem like I need to. This seat, I mean, this pan is not going anywhere, so I think it's good the way it is. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. Maybe I probably won't cut it back this much. I'm just gonna cut off a little bit at a time, see what looks best and what doesn't. But I'm definitely gonna have to trim that a little bit. So we'll have to see and see how much material we're gonna be taking off. But I think I'm gonna call it a night. It's almost midnight. So I'm gonna get everything cleaned up and we'll resume this in the morning. So until then. All right, here it is next day. Seat's all trimmed. Looking really good. Trimmed the backside a little bit so it's level with this side. I also kind of contoured it up a little bit. Just give it a nice little design. Seat opens up really nicely. I put this buffer on there. Came off the stock seat. And closed really nicely. So, seems to fit really good. Happy with how it turned out. But, yeah. It's coming along. It's taking shape. Alright, here it is, a beautiful sunny day out. Unlike the last clip I was in. I fixed the pegs, 2-inch drop instead of, I think it was like a 4-inch drop before, and also I've cut it and I've brought the pegs in a little bit, if you notice. Still got plenty of meat left, but they don't stick out as far as they used to, which I think looks a lot better. So these are the pieces that I've cut off. If you notice, I brought it up about 3 inches, and I cut about a little over 1 inch of width off. So, yeah, I was kind of stupid before, but I fixed it now. Fixing my younger mistakes, but I'm really happy the way it's turning out. Got the clutch straightened out, and if I get a pull start for this thing, I might have to actually cut this and then relocate it. I might have to clock the spline mount, clock it this way so it doesn't hit the pull start. I have to cut this down and maybe weld it here or something. I'm not really sure. Maybe do it perfectly straight like that and then just weld the arm here. But I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I don't have a pull start yet. I gotta get one coming. The one I had is the wrong one. It came off an earlier model. I'm thinking like 83, they changed them to this style. If you notice, it's got this little kick out right here, and the earlier ones are perfectly round. Also, the earlier ones are narrower. So if you put this on, it actually won't fit unless you put a spacer shim on there, which I did. I actually made my own, but I don't want to go down that route anymore. So here's my old pull start. I think it came off of like, I don't know, like a 81, I believe. I don't remember, it's been so long, but the bolts line up. Got a little bit of a gap there, so it's slightly too narrow. And also, it doesn't cover up this area, so just water and crap will get inside there, ruin that stator, which I don't want. I have this spacer that was on here, like so. It's made out of like some weird composite material, but as you can see, I didn't take into account this little piece right here. Plus, you know, it just looks kind of dumb. I want to do this right. There's one on eBay for like 150 bucks. It's the cheapest one I could find, and it's the one I need. I'll tell you what, those pull starts getting expensive and hard to find. That's probably why they're expensive. But I'll get one coming eventually. Obviously, I don't need it right now. I got a long way to go before this thing's roadworthy. So we'll worry about that later. Alrighty, I am back. Did a couple things off camera. Drilled this hole for the air duct. And I got this ring that I'm going to weld to the frame. Kind of double up on it. It's roughly the same gauge. It's actually a little thicker. It should give the frame a little bit of reinforcement. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I actually fucked up. So I drilled a 2.5-inch hole. But the hole I needed that goes inside this groove is actually 2 1/4. So I'm going to weld this ring to the frame. And I'm going to try and not get any weld on that inner lip there. I'm just going to stitch weld it on both sides. That should give me plenty of rigidity. And I've cut this off so it can clear the intake pipe. Got the intake pipe. I forgot what size it was. A little over 1.5 inches. I think it's 1 3/4. I believe it's 1 3/4. About a foot length. So I got a coupler for this end. As you can see, definitely gonna trim down a little bit, but I think it's gonna fit perfectly. I've also cut this out even more just to give myself a little more room for the battery and some electrical. Plus, I don't like the way the angle iron looked, so I'm just gonna get some regular flat stock, weld it back in place. But I'll do that in the next video as well. But yeah, that should do it for this video. I'm sure this video is getting really long and boring, so I'm just going to leave it here. So in the next video, we'll do the intake, and I need to get a pull start coming. And what else is there? I'm noticed the tank is missing. I'm having some work done to that as well. And I also got a sprocket coming, a third idler sprocket for down here, and I already got the chain in, so I'll be showing you guys that in the next video. Also, maybe I can even squeeze the front fender in the next video as well. If not, maybe the one after. I'm not gonna bore you guys too long with this project. I've actually had this project for quite a while, but if you like the way it's coming along, definitely hit the thumbs up and share with your friends. But I think it's looking really good for the most part. Looks like a pile of trash, but it's a work in progress. And then maybe the final video, I'll do the seat. And that'll be the fun part, I think. And most importantly, gotta get this damn thing running. But in due time. So if you guys like this video, catch me in the next one. So see you then.